Today we're going to kick things off with a lot of Starship updates to discuss. Then we'll transition to Dragon news and upcoming missions, finishing with today's honorable mention. I'm Kevin, and this is SpaceX in the News. Lately, I've received several inquiries from viewers asking me about the status of SpaceX's move to the Port of LA. Well, now I finally have news to report on concerning that very situation. In 2018, SpaceX proposed building Starship in Southern California at the Port of LA, but then scrapped the site after they decided to switch from building Starship out of carbon composite to stainless steel. And then again earlier this year, SpaceX revisited the idea to open up the Port of LA for Starship development, the idea being to manufacture parts there and then ship them to Boca Chica, Texas for assembly. But now it's been reported by the Los Angeles Times that the company has, for a second time, nixed the plan. On March 27th, SpaceX sent a letter to the port informing them of their intent to terminate their permit agreement, which officially did happen on May 11th. SpaceX did not provide a reason for this decision. I can only speculate that it may have had something to do with the whole California microbiology lockdown thing that Elon didn't exactly agree with. But who knows? So Starship development will remain solely in Boca for the time being, because as Elon puts it, Boca is the gateway to Mars. And production isn't slowing down. In fact, a week after SpaceX successfully placed astronauts Bob and Doug on the space station, Elon Musk sent a company-wide email to his employees urging them to now accelerate Starship operations. Quote, "Please consider the top SpaceX priority, apart from anything that could reduce Dragon return risk, to be Starship. We need to accelerate Starship progress," asking his employees to consider spending significant time in Boca Chica. Quote, "For those considering moving, we will always offer a dedicated SpaceX aircraft to shuttle people." And the push to drive progress forward at ludicrous speed is showing. There is now a family of nose cones standing by at the site, and while SN5 and 6 are still in the high bay, it appears an SN7 tank has been fully built using the new 304L stainless steel series, an improvement Elon gave us notice about months ago. And the SN7 test tank is making its way down Highway 4 to Boca Chica at the moment. However, this does not mean they are completely skipping SN5 and 6. They'll circle back. The new test stand is coming along nicely, and those 3 hydraulic rams we've seen used during prior testing have been attached. These will simulate engine thrust during upcoming cryo tests. The flare stack, or giant Bunsen burner as I call it, was removed yesterday, a move that Elon warned us about a couple weeks ago. It was loved by the community because it provided a rough timeline of events to viewers during testing. And speaking of testing, there is currently a NOTAM in place for ground testing through June 24th. But also happening at the launch site is groundwork implementation for future Super Heavy booster testing. Why, you may be thinking? Because the building of the Super Heavy booster will be starting soon. A new 81-meter tall high bay for its construction is about to get erected, but it still won't be tall enough to stack Starship on top. That's because SpaceX will integrate the entire 2-stage rocket at the launch pad, instead of transporting the entire Starship Super Heavy down Highway 4. But even stacking one on top of the other at the launch site will have its challenges. And SpaceX is currently looking to launch the booster from 3 different places for its maiden flight. From land on Boca, on a platform offshore, and at the Cape. Super Heavy will hold 3,600 tons of propellant, 80% of which will be densified liquid oxygen. And the Raptor engine to consume that fuel is still being improved by engineering teams back in Hawthorne, California. They're trying to get the mass down while improving performance. And although they're on SN30 at the moment, the improvement list continues past SN50. And we also received final confirmation as to what exactly those forward ports are on the lunar Starship. No, they're not lights. They are high-thrust Methalox RCS thrusters used for lunar landings. Because according to SpaceX's Nick Cummings, those Raptor engines themselves are just too powerful for the moon's gravity and its surface. And speaking of the moon, NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine shared some excellent news concerning NASA's Artemis program. Quote, "The cost-saving success of commercial crew is based on NASA establishing high-level requirements and letting private companies innovate. For the Artemis moon base, NASA will establish a cost per ton delivered and once again let private companies innovate. What this means is that NASA is going to let capitalism do its thing, allowing the free market to catalyze competition among contractors by setting fixed prices, therefore incentivizing innovation instead of allowing contractors to raise their prices. Elon is definitely for all of this. Quote, outcome-based contracting with multiple competitors is vastly better than cost plus, as the former rewards results and latter rewards waste. Outcome contracting should be applied broadly within government. The difference in results will be incredible." And while we're on the topic of NASA's Commercial Crew program, allow me to share some more excellent news with you. Just days after Bob and Doug successfully reached the space station, NASA made an unexpected adjustment to their crewed arrangement with SpaceX. Now the company is allowed to reuse Falcon 9 launch vehicles and Crew Dragon spacecrafts, beginning with the Post-Certification Mission 2, or PCM-2, otherwise known as Crew 2, which will follow about 6 months after the next Crew Dragon launch, Crew 1, currently scheduled for August 30th. The Demo 2 Dragon capsule currently docked at the space station is doing well, says Ken Bowersox, NASA's administrator for human spaceflight. And Bob and Doug are expected to make an earthly return in August. That's a dinosaur on a leash in space. Moving on to Starlink, the booster of last week's Starlink mission made a return to the Cape on the drone ship Just Read the Instructions earlier this week. It was the ship's first East Coast catch, and aside from being a little toasty, as one could expect, the booster looked really good. SpaceX released some pretty great footage of the fairing deployment during the mission, but neither fairing halves were caught by recovery ships Miss Tree or Miss Chief, but were fished out of the ocean instead. One was reported to be a loss. Great, now SpaceX has an odd number of fairings lying around. Probably feels worse than doing your laundry and losing a single sock. Personally, I'd rather lose both instead of just having one sock lying around. But that's just me. Anyway, the next SpaceX launch is another Starlink mission, but it's also a rideshare. The payload consists of 58 Starlink satellites, not 60, and 3 Planet Labs spacecraft, scheduled to lift off at a disgusting 5:21 a.m. Eastern Time. But I'll be here to cover the official live stream for you. That is, of course, unless I hit my snooze button too many times. But the party won't stop there. We'll have a couple more missions later this month as well, and next month we'll also be super busy, but we'll get more into that at a later episode. Now it's time for today's honorable mention. In an ironic turn of events, Rocket Lab's launch of their Electron rocket, Don't Stop Me Now, was stopped at T-minus 49 seconds a couple nights ago.
This is an update from Mission Control Auckland. The team has made the decision to stand down today due to high winds.
So their next attempt for launch will be no earlier than 12:43 a.m. Eastern tonight. This mission will take payloads from NASA, a US SpySat agency, and other various universities. This week I released the full interview I had with Rocket Lab CEO Peter Beck, and we spoke at length concerning their booster recovery efforts. You can find that link right there. Well, that's all the news I have for you guys today, but I want to give a shout out to my eccentric members for supporting these videos. I really do appreciate their love for this content. And thank you all for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and comment your intimate feelings below. Perhaps I'll see you in the wee hours of the morning for the next Starlink launch, and if not, have a terminal weekend. And until that time, Godspeed.